Hey, what's up guys? Today we're going to go over a simple ngRepeat in AngularJS. So ngRepeat is just a directive that Angular has that lets you loop over certain HTML elements. So let's get started. So if you've seen my Angular setup video, you should be at this spot with your code. If not, this is just a simplified version of an Angular application where we have the Angular importing here, a script tag where we set up the module and create a basic controller, just called main controller. And the app and controller both have only access to anything inside this div. So let's get started. And to get started, we're just going to create a simple object. We just call it on the scope called Zeta. And let's make this an array. So let's make this an array of objects. So if you're not familiar with JavaScript, some other programming languages also use square brackets as array for arrays, and then objects use the curly brackets. So the first object, let's just say, let's make it like an array of sports. So let's call this scope.sports. And we would say name, let's say soccer. And let's make another object called name football. And let's do one more just to get more complete. Say name basketball. And that's our data set there. So that's all we really need to make a simple table in Angular. And just to make it look a little nicer, let's add another value in each object. So we have soccer. Let's say like origin year. I'm not sure what this exactly is, but let's just say 1900, 1900, 1950 or something. And then, so we have this data, and in our scope here of the controller, let's go ahead and just give ourselves some space here, and let's make a table. Let's make a table, and we can create a head to the table and add the name as a header and origin. So this is going to be the top part of the table. And let's add the body, so table body. And we're going to create one row. And we want two cells in each row, one for the name, one for the origin year. So this is where more of the Angular comes into play. So on the whatever element you want to repeat, so we want to repeat the row in this table for each sport. So on the element we want to repeat, we do ng-repeat equals sport in the name of the key in the scope. So in this case, sports. So sport and sports. So that's all you really have to do. So once we have that, we can go in here and use the sport object that we're getting from the loop. And we could say sport.name, because in one of these sports, there's a name object or a name key value pair in an origin with a number year. So we use sport.origin year. And that's pretty much it. So we did everything right. This should work. So let's go into the file. And as you can see, we have a table, simple table with the headers that we added, and then each of the objects printing out on the screen. So some of the things you could do more for optimization for more advanced viewers, you can add other things such as filter, where you would use a pipe and you say filter, and you could add something like soccer here, like a string, or you could even add like a variable. So you could say like search term, and the search term would be something else in the scope. And this term could come from like an input box or something. You could also do other things like order by, which you could say like name, or you could say origin year. But in this case, we're just going to say track by. Normally, it tracks by index, by default, but let's do track by name. And what this does is if you're loading data from an external source, like such as a REST API, if you have the same name, if it's changing the data and if it has the same name in the new data, it won't reload it. So it'll just save you some time, make it a little bit quicker. Something else we could do is, in this case, the data is not changing, so we could use these 2 colons. What that tells Angular is that we don't have to keep watching these 2 things because they're not going to change. Because Angular automatically watches the variables, all these values, and if it changes, it will automatically update the screen for the user. But in this case, we're not going to be changing the data, so we just use these 2 colons, which will just make it a little bit faster, especially if you have a lot of data. So thanks, guys.